Welcome back to JForrest English. I'm Jennifer, and today I have an advanced reading lesson for you. We're going to read a news article together so you can learn advanced vocabulary, advanced grammar, and correct pronunciation. Let's get started.
First, I'll read the headline. Ben Robert Smith, How Decorated Soldiers' Defamation Case Has Rocked Australia. So this man is Ben Robert Smith. Notice this, his name ends in an S, Roberts, but the second part of his last name starts in an S. So in this case, you only pronounce one S, Robert Smith, Robert Smith. If it were just Roberts, you would pronounce the S, or just Smith, of course, S. But together, Robert Smith, Ben Robert Smith. This man is Ben Robert Smith. Notice these medals on his suit jacket. This is what it means by decorated soldier. If you say that a soldier is decorated, it means that they have been awarded medals for various reasons. So that's what decorated means. It's really used in a military context. Now, what is a defamation case? We're talking about a legal case. Defamation is the action of damaging someone's reputation, and that's done by either writing or saying bad things about that person. But the important thing is that those things are not true. So apparently, the media said bad things about Ben Robert Smith, and they ruined his reputation. So he's suing them. So someone said bad things about Ben Robert Smith that damaged his reputation, but those things are not true, so he is suing them. I'm suing you for defamation. So if you said Jennifer is the worst teacher in the entire world, and that ruined my reputation, I could sue you for defamation. So don't say that. Hopefully you don't think that. Now, how this defamation case has rocked Australia. What does it mean to rock Australia? When something rocks someone or a group, such as the population of Australia, it means it shocks them. So this defamation case has shocked Australia. Let's continue on and find out why this case has rocked Australia. For months on end, Australia's most decorated living soldier. So remember I said decorated represents these medals. So he has the most medals of any living soldier. So he sat stoically in a Sydney courtroom. Let's stop here because there are a few things I want to review. Let's take a look at this. For months on end. 4 months. Now, we could just say 4 months and it would be completely correct. When you add on end, it simply stresses the continuation. So to emphasize or to stress continuation. Emphasize continuation. So let's say I've been having issues with my computer. I could say my computer has been freezing 4 months on end. When I add on end, it just lets you know it didn't just happen once or twice. It's been happening continuously. So you can add that for months, for days, for weeks, for hours, whatever time reference you would like. And notice, because we have for and then our time reference, this is a keyword for the present perfect or the present perfect continuous. For months on end, Australia's most decorated living soldier sat stoically. This is a great adverb, and it means without showing your feelings, especially when something bad happens to you. So let's say that someone delivered some terrible news to me, and as they delivered the news, okay, thank you for sharing. I understand. That would be a stoic reaction. I reacted stoically. But if I went, no, what, why, and I reacted very emotionally, that's the opposite of stoically. So he sat stoically in a Sydney courtroom as dozens of witnesses accused him of war crimes, bullying peers, and assaulting his mistress. Okay, so different people, dozens of. So, of course, 1 dozen is 12. 12. I hope you know that. 1 dozen equals 12. It's a very common measurement because things like eggs come in a dozen eggs, 12 eggs, a dozen buns, 12 buns. So it's a common quantity, a dozen. So this is dozens of. So it would be 24 or 36, just more than 12. So a lot of people, accused him, this decorated soldier, of these terrible things: war crimes, bullying peers, and assaulting his mistress. But Ben Robert Smith was not the one on trial. So he was not officially accused of these crimes because remember, in the headline, this man was actually suing someone else for defamation. But instead, now people are accusing him of all of these crimes. And that probably explains why this case has rocked Australia. Now, you can download the lesson PDF that summarizes all the notes from this lesson. Just look in the description below or in the comment section for the link to download it. Let's continue. The 44-year-old had brought the case. So notice the past perfect. He had brought the case before he was accused of war crimes. So remember, the past perfect is used for a past action before another past action. Past action before another past action. So I'll write out that full sentence. He had brought the case. When you bring a case to the criminal justice system, it just means you start or initiate a legal process. He had brought the case, the defamation case, before he was accused of war crimes. So remember, we have the past perfect, and then this is the older action, and then we have the past simple for the newer action, but they are both past actions. The 44-year-old had brought the case, suing 3 Australian newspapers over a series of articles in 2018, which he says defamed him. So this is the verb form. Remember before we had defamation, which is a noun, but here to defame someone, that's the verb form. So the verb form is to defame someone, to defame. So the media defamed him. You defamed me when you said I was the world's worst teacher, so I'm suing you. Don't worry, I won't do that. He argues they ruined his life by painting him as a callous man. So you can paint someone as something, and that's just another way of saying to describe someone as. She described me as the world's best teacher. Oh, I thank you so much. She painted me as the world's best teacher. So when you paint someone as, you don't just say Jennifer's the world's best teacher. You usually give examples. You tell a story. Just like when you paint a picture, you don't just put one blob. You put a lot of detail on that picture. So you provide details, informations, examples, a story to describe someone. So the media painted him as a callous man. What is this adjective? Callous. He's very callous. When someone is callous, it means they are unkind, cruel, and they don't have any sympathy or feelings for others. So it's a negative adjective. So let's say I shared some very bad news with you. I told you that a family member died, and you said, let's get some pizza. I might say, well, that was very callous. That was very unkind. You didn't even offer any sympathy to this. You just wanted pizza. So that was very callous. He's so callous. So the media painted him as a callous man who had broken the moral and legal rules of war. Notice our past perfect again. A past action before another past action. So maybe this is the older past action. So the newer past action could have been he had broken the legal rules of war before he met Queen Elizabeth. Because up here, they have him with Queen Elizabeth. So this is a past action. It's already in the past, but we're talking about a past action before this past action. So he had, I'll write that again for you so you can practice. He had broken the moral rules of war before he met Queen Elizabeth. So remember, this is the older action and this is the newer action, but they are both past actions. Disgracing his country in the process. Let's take a look at disgrace. This is a verb, and this is when you make people stop respecting you or your family, team, your company, by doing something very bad or wrong. So remember, before this case, he was a beloved, decorated soldier in Australia, but then it came to light that he had done all these terrible things. So now he has embarrassed his country. He's disgraced his country. Disgracing his country in the process. Before we move on, I just want to see if you're enjoying this lesson and if you enjoy learning advanced vocabulary and grammar in this very natural way. If you do, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers in the real world, TV, movies, YouTube, and the news, so you can improve your listening skills, add advanced vocabulary, advanced grammar, correct pronunciation to your speech to help you become fluent in only 90 days. And you'll have me as your personal coach. So you can look in the description below for information on how to join. Now let's continue. But the media outlets say they reported the truth and have set out to prove it. Let's take a look at this. To set out to do something. In this case, to prove it. What's the it? Remember, the it is that this decorated soldier did commit all these things that they said. So there is no defamation because it's true. That's what they want to set out to prove. And this simply means that they're going to start trying to do that specific thing. So in this case, they're going to start trying to prove that he committed those crimes. So you might say, I've set out to improve my English speaking skills. Does this describe you? Are you going to start trying to improve your English speaking skills? If this describes you, put it in the comments. I've set out to improve my English speaking skills. And notice, to set out, this is in the present perfect. Let's continue on. It is the first time in history any court has been tasked with assessing allegations of war crimes by Australian forces. An allegation is a claim that someone has done something wrong without evidence. Okay? Without evidence. So at this point, it's just a claim that someone has done something wrong, like the war hero, the soldier who committed war crimes. But at this point, it's just an allegation without evidence or proof. So the media wants to explain that there is evidence, there is proof. So it's not, in fact, an allegation, it's the truth. So again, it's not defamation. And notice this sentence structure: to be tasked with something, and then that something is either a noun or a verb in ing. So let me give you an example. I've been tasked with helping my students improve their speaking skills. So of course, a task is something that you need to do. But if I've been tasked with it, it sounds like someone else is giving me the task. So maybe it's just my students who constantly say, Jennifer, can you help me improve my speaking skills? So I can say, I've been tasked with, and then notice the verb with ing. Let's continue. Lasting 110 days and costing up to an estimated 25 million Australian dollars. Now, in this context, the A stands for Australian, simply because this article is for a worldwide audience. And when you see the dollar sign, you assume it's American dollars. So they put the A to represent Australian dollars. Of course, if this is a newspaper in Australia, they wouldn't put that because for them, that is the currency. This is just for an international audience, so we understand it's Australian dollars. The trial has heard extraordinary and at times bizarre evidence about every facet of Mr. Robert Smith's life. Bizarre is an adjective that means very strange and unusual. So at times, strange and unusual evidence. Now I'm curious, what is this bizarre evidence? You could use this because it's an adjective. You could say, her behavior was very bizarre. It was very strange and unusual. Bizarre. Her behavior was very bizarre. Or the movie was very bizarre. You could use that as well. The movie was very bizarre. It was strange. It was unusual. It was bizarre. Every facet of. Facet is a way to say every part of, every element of, every piece of. I'll write that out for you. So every part, element, aspect, piece, these are all synonyms that you can use. Piece of. So of course, he has different parts of his life. He has his family life, his friends, his hobbies, his sports, his work, his community. Those are the facets of his life, the aspects, the pieces of his life. So this evidence is about every facet of, so not just his work or his family, also how he acts in the community or the hobbies he enjoys, every facet of his life. It sparked a media frenzy. So this verb to spark, it simply means that it created. The media frenzy was created because of this trial. So it created. So the frenzy wouldn't have existed without this. It created. Now, what is frenzy? Frenzy simply means uncontrolled or really excited. Uncontrolled, excited. So if you say there was a media frenzy when Brad Pitt arrived. So Brad Pitt arrived and there are tons and tons of different people taking pictures, asking questions. Nobody is controlled. Nobody is respecting Brad Pitt's personal space. Oh, Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt. They're putting a microphone, a camera in his face, and everyone is very excited. That would be a frenzy. Captured national attention and has made Mr. Robert Smith the public face of accusations of Australian war crimes in Afghanistan. After sifting through, when you sift through something, it means you go through something or review something in a lot of detail. So if I have all these different pages in a notebook and I read each and every page very, very carefully, I sifted through the notebook. So let me write that for you. So to review information very carefully, to review information carefully. And you're doing that so you can determine what's useful or what's not useful. After sifting through volumes of evidence, this week a judge is due to hand down a decision. When you hand down a decision, it simply means that you make your decision public, but it's used with authorities because once the judge decides, that is a legally binding decision. Yes, he can appeal the decision, but until he appeals the decision, that decision is legally binding. So if your boss hands down a decision, because your boss has authority to make decisions, if you don't like the decision, unfortunately, there probably isn't a lot you can do. So we use hand down a decision when it's someone in a position of authority who makes a decision. So when the judge is due to hand down a decision, so I'll just write that note for you, to make a decision. So the judge is due to make a decision, and I'll just note only used when the decision is made by someone with authority. So when that person shares the decision, that decision is final. But remember, every decision can be appealed, or there are official processes that you can follow if you don't agree with a decision, even if it is made by someone with authority, even if that decision is handed down. The judge is due to hand down a decision in the historic case. So soon we will find out, this week we will find out what that decision is. Now that's the end of the story. So what I'll do now is I'll go to the top and I'll read the article from start to finish. And this time you can focus on my pronunciation. Ben Robert Smith, how decorated soldiers' defamation case has rocked Australia. For months on end, Australia's most decorated living soldier sat stoically in a Sydney courtroom as dozens of witnesses accused him of war crimes, bullying peers, and assaulting his mistress. But Ben Robert Smith was not the one on trial. The 44-year-old had brought the case, suing 3 Australian newspapers over a series of articles in 2018, which he says defamed him. He argues they ruined his life by painting him as a callous man who had broken the moral and legal rules of war, disgracing his country in the process. But the media outlets say they reported the truth and have set out to prove it. It is the first time in history any court has been tasked with assessing allegations of war crimes by Australian forces. Lasting 110 days and costing up to an estimated 25 million Australian dollars, the trial has heard extraordinary and at times bizarre evidence about every facet of Mr. Robert Smith's life. It sparked a media frenzy, captured national attention, and has made Mr. Robert Smith the public face of accusations of Australian war crimes in Afghanistan. After sifting through volumes of evidence, this week a judge is due to hand down a decision in the historic case.
So did you like this lesson? If you did, make sure you subscribe because I post new lessons like this every single week. And you can also get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can download it on my website right here or look in the description for the link. And why don't you get started with your next lesson right now?